It's pretty well known by now that Middle-earth Shadow of War is a big microtransaction game about microtransactions, where you fight as a heroic microtransaction fighting off hordes of microtransactions. Now, it's not the first big AAA game to feature microtransactions and loot boxes, and it certainly won't be the last. Except it does kind of feel like they were going out of their way to be a bit anti-consumer with this one. Well, now Monolith Studios have come out to discuss the game's loot boxes and microtransactions and try to reassure fans that don't worry, you guys. The game is balanced. It's just whoa, it's so balanced. Like, did you get? I mean,
it's pretty balanced,
right? It's definitely balanced.
Bob Roberts is the design director for Shadow of War, the upcoming sequel to 2014's excellent Shadow of Mordor. It's an open world game about decapitating orcs and it's out on PS4, Xbox One and PC on October the 10th. Roberts sat down with Eurogamer at EGX 2017 over the weekend for an extensive interview about the game's controversial microtransaction system. Microtransactions were confirmed to be part of the game back in August when the developers did a live stream to show just how they expect us to spend more money on top of the $60 we already paid for the game. The interview begins with Eurogamer's Tom Phillips asking Roberts how they can reassure players the game won't be balanced around the loot boxes. In other words, making players feel obliged to purchase them in order to get anywhere. Well, Roberts says Monolith is working hard to make sure the base game is rewarding and meaningful. So during playtesting, they turned the loot boxes and microtransaction economy off. He reckons that when the game is launched and people have started to play, then the concern about balancing will be resolved and people will share this knowledge.
Roberts also said Shadow of War does not require an online connection at all times and people can still take on the full experience without putting any extra money in. He also confusingly compares the presence of loot boxes to difficulty modes, with loot boxes being in the game to make the experience easier for some players. He said it's the same design philosophy as us adding in difficulty modes. It's putting more control in people's hands, saying, you know how you play best, you make that choice, except, pay us a bit of money for it. He didn't say that last bit. Eurogamer then asked Roberts why put loot boxes in the game at all if it's so well balanced, to which Roberts said the boxes are there for players who are conscious of their time but still want the full experience. Roberts was then asked, will he buy any loot boxes himself, and he admitted that no, probably not. He said, I personally probably will just let the systems feed me the rewards as we've balanced them.
When Roberts was asked if the loot boxes are fair in a full fat $60 game, he didn't really answer the question. He said, you put your $60 in for a big game like ours up front and our focus is that its initial purchase price is more than worth it. You want people to be pleasantly surprised by how much stuff is in it. Roberts then went on to say loot boxes are a complicated subject and pointed out the online debate around loot boxes. Some people are open to them while others are strictly against them. But he assures us that Shadow of War is so well balanced that players can enjoy the full game without having to spend any extra money on the game. Roberts ends the interview saying, obviously we have tuned our game so it works without those things and that including them does not distract from the rest of it.
So, Shadow of War is balanced. It's a very balanced game is the main takeaway you should have from this video. So what essentially they're doing is charging for a difficulty mode. That's basically what he's admitted in a roundabout way there.
Easy mode as well, which is worse. It's like, you don't have much time, so let's spend even more money and you can streamline that experience for you. That's a bit of bullshit, innit? It's like some fast track shit.
Horseshit. I never get that philosophy. Like, you don't even have to play our game if you don't want to. Just pay us a bit more money. It's the whole mentality of like, the game isn't worth your time, so pay us a bit of money and you don't even have to pay it. You don't even have to play it. Like, what's the thinking there? It's not very flattering to your game to offer people a quicker, easier alternative by paying for it. That's not a very good attitude to have towards your own game. You can also have,
like, if you don't have much time, you've got a quick and easy alternative, and you can save $60 by just not buying it.
That's the ultimate microtransaction. Yeah. Don't spend any money on it. I just really don't understand it. I mean, it's the game is there to be played. However long it is, that's how, however much of a grind it is, that's how you made the game. So the questioning coming from Eurogamer, which was very good, if the game is so balanced, then why have microtransactions in the first place? To which he just kind of dances around it and says, well, we're thinking about it a bit more as a difficulty mode for people who value their time. What? AKA,
Warner Bros. Have made us do it. Yeah. We're too cowardly to say anything against it.
Please leave me alone. Yeah. Don't ask me any more questions.
I've said this before, I think, where it looks like the developers actually really do care about like Middle-earth and stuff like that. We all know it's Warner Bros., but they can't say it. Can you imagine if he was like, well, Warner Bros. Tell me about it. So he's got like this job of just like having to weasel around questions, and everyone's just like, mate, come on, Bob. sort it out. But what can he do about it? Nothing. So yeah, it's just funny that they're kind of trying to make it feel like they're not necessary. But then, what's the point in even putting them in the game, isn't it?
You know, the whole balancing of the game, seeing as that is such an important part, like building up your army of orcs, and just like the foundations that they laid in Shadow of Mordor, they've kind of brought that over and made it bigger and better and more exciting, except it's now also a thing that you can buy into and pay money for. But I mean, it's just a huge microtransaction.
That's
Zeppelin.
it. Yeah, it's just a
microtransaction.
That's it. My takeaway from it, really, this time around especially, is that this just seems to be like making you feel like the game doesn't even need them in. And that really poses the big question for me is, if you don't need them in there, why are they in there? It's just like, even he doesn't really see the point of them. Even he himself isn't going to be using them. So like, what's the point? Not even getting behind your own product there.
I don't know if anyone's actually going to be reassured by anything he said here. He's just basically kind of said, yeah, they're in the game. Yeah, don't worry, they haven't affected the balance of the game. The game is so balanced. Did I mention that? It's that attitude that he's got. It's something that we're going to have to deal with. They're part of the game. There's nothing we can do about it. Thanks for nothing, Warner Brothers. See you next time. Okay, so that's the latest on the microtransactions in Middle-earth Shadow of War. Let us know your feelings down in the comments below. Remember to like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this every single day. Another video right there, which you can watch right now. And there's a link to Patreon if you want to support the channel. See you next time.